I feel like the last couple of years you've like purposely picked this fight with the red states. I mean, the DeSantis. Yeah, but I don't want to live in the Civil War country.
I agree with that.
You know what? Well, but you seem like you purposely want to set up this dichotomy between, oh, this is a blue state and that's a red state.
Yeah. You got folks out there trying to bring us back to a pre-1960s world. America in reverse, rolling back voting rights, LGBTQ rights, women's rights, not just access to abortion, but contraception. I mean, it's a profound and consequential moment. And you could sit by and say, well, I really want to get along, as these guys are rolling back the clock.
Bill Maher threw down the gauntlet during his fiery chat with Gavin Newsom on Real Time with Bill Maher, and honestly, I didn't see it coming. Sure, Maher's been taking some pretty unfiltered shots at the woke crowd lately, but I didn't expect him to go after Newsom like he did. Maher expertly boxed Gavin into a corner, forcing him to wiggle his way out, and let me tell you, it was a full-on battle. So, what went down, and who came out on top in this verbal showdown? Stick around, because it's about to get interesting.
The governor gave this creepy speech where he was talking about speculators coming in and talking about what to do with the land of all these homes that have been burnt down.
We're dealing with a myriad of issues. I was just talking to Josh Green, the governor down in Hawaii, who had some ideas around some land use concerns he has around speculators coming in, buying up properties.
While it's still only 6% contained, and he did this little dance.
All right, let me hit you with this clip where you can practically feel the audience's jaws drop as Bill Maher hits Newsom with those rapid-fire questions. And Newsom? Well, let's just say his dodging game was in full swing. You could tell the man was scrambling.
You'd be good at the job. Not this year, we know. No, I know. But he said, I don't think he could win. I don't think he could win. He's too progressive coming from this state and what he's done in this state to win in any southern state, any red state. I disagreed, but no, this is a progressive African-American owned station, and I'm sure they like you, but he doesn't think you can win. What do you say to that if you could win look at the swing states, there's only 8 of them.
Right.
Gavin Newsom tries to defend himself here, but honestly, it doesn't work out in his favor. He just embarrasses himself.
Well, I mean, California is an interesting case study, isn't it? It's the size of 21 state populations combined.
Yeah.
2/3 of state is very deeply red. We don't need to be lectured on rural politics or border issues. I mean, in so many ways, these are familiar issues, and the issues of the heartland of the United States are very much a part and parcel of the work we're doing in this state. But look, I understand this notion that you're from the coast, you don't understand those things. You can't talk the language. You're not able to communicate, and you're not able to actually encourage and find that common ground.
It's stuff like there's a new law in this. I think we have way too many regulations and laws, as we've talked about. And this one, I think, says if you're a department store with over 500 employees, you have to have a gender-neutral toy department.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
Yeah, I get it.
So do you think that's silly? Do you think that's a silly thing that we too much government there?
If you were paying close attention, you could hear the audience gasp when Maher hit Newsom with that question. They weren't expecting him to call out that ridiculous state legislation. You could see the shock on Gavin's face and hear the slight stutter in his voice as he scrambled for a response. Maher had him cornered like a cat toying with a very anxious mouse. Only this mouse had a hair gel sponsorship and a quickly disappearing exit. But of course, like any seasoned politician, Gavin spotted that escape route and took it without hesitation. Let's dive into his response, and I'll give you my take afterward.
That's an interesting one because the department stores came to us supporting that, and they were the ones making a case for that. They were making a case they're already moving in that direction.
Wanted you to make a law about them?
Well, but they supported the legislation. It wasn't legislation that was enacted, that was initiated from my office, but it was legislation that came up with interesting support from the industry itself. But I understand how that's exploited, and good people can disagree. But that's not something we woke up and said, this is a top priority for the state, when we know the top priorities are homelessness, housing, the issues of crime, quality of life, and issues related to regulation and taxes, which are all top of mind. But I get how those things are weaponized.
The question was pretty straightforward. Doesn't Newsom think the government is overstepping by forcing toy stores with more than 500 employees to have a gender-neutral section? But instead of answering directly, because, well, that would be too simple, Gavin took us on a scenic detour, going on and on about how department stores are totally on board with this move. Sure, Gavin, but that still doesn't answer the question. Classic politician move. This is what happens when lefties try to defend their own policies. They sidestep the issue like they're playing a game of political twister, hoping no one catches the inconsistencies. But Maher wasn't letting him off the hook that easily. Watch how Bill starts by throwing a little flattery Gavin's way.
All right, so one, I got you here because I live here and I'm not going anywhere. So I just want to make this a better state like everybody else.
Amen.
And good job this year making it rain.
You're welcome.
That was
That was my legislative priority.
Bill tosses in a bit of praise that ironically makes Gavin squirm in his chair like he knows something's coming. And he's right. You could hear that uneasy chuckle from the audience, and trust me, they felt it too. They could practically smell that their golden boy was about to walk straight into a rhetorical buzzsaw. Newsom, the smooth-talking pro, was ready for his big mic drop moment, but Maher beat him to it. And when that moment hit, it wasn't just a mic drop, it was a full-on wrecking ball. Gavin flailed, the audience cringed, and Maher just sat back, watching the whole thing unfold like he was at a front row seat to a car crash.
And we still don't have enough water in the Colorado River and all this stuff. And then whenever I read, 80% of the water goes to agriculture. Almonds.
Right.
No one ever asked you about almonds? Oh, I'm going to ask you about almonds. We grow a boatload of
I'm
almonds
well
here.
aware.
You know how much water it takes?
Many gallons.
1,900 gallons to grow a pound of almonds. Yeah. Come on, man. take on big almond.
Take on big almonds.
I mean, it's not like we don't have the water.
Another masterstroke from Maher. For years, California's been ringing the alarm about water shortages, with officials claiming the rivers just can't handle it. But, surprise, surprise, investigations revealed there was enough water to go around. The kicker? A jaw-dropping 80% of it was being drained by, wait for it, almonds. Yep, almonds. Fun fact, they soak up as much water as all indoor household use combined. And to rub salt in the wound, they only contribute a pathetic 2% to California's economy. So, Maher's question was pretty straightforward. What's Newsom actually doing about this water crisis? Now sit back and watch as Newsom dances around the question, like he's auditioning for Dancing with the Stars.
In those extreme years with these atmospheric rivers, wets are getting a lot wetter, dry's drier, hot's getting a lot hotter. And so we've got to modernize our conveyance system. We've got to modernize our storage, not just above ground, but below ground. And so that's a big part of our focus and frame, including desalinization plants. We have 20 projects just on desal that we're working on today. So we put out a detailed water strategy that includes, by the way, getting that Delta Conveyance project back up and operational, and includes the first above ground off stream storage facility in half a century in the state, which, by the way, is being aided by a regulatory package I pushed forward to reduce red tape in the state of California and address the permitting quagmires that you rightfully pointed out.
Did you follow that word salad? Because I sure did. The question was straightforward. What's Newsom actually doing about the almond crisis? But, true to form, he pulled a typical politician move, sidestepping the real issue, aka the almond crisis. Instead, he went off on a tangent about his grand plans for rainwater storage and some vague water management ideas. Yada, yada, yada. The real problem isn't California running out of water. It's that a huge chunk of it's being used for almond farming, which adds a measly 2% to the state's economy. But instead of facing that inconvenient fact, Newsom avoided the question and clung to the same old narrative about improving water storage. And that, my friends, is a textbook example of woke politics. Don't actually fix the problem. Just throw out a bunch of buzzwords and hope no one notices the lack of substance. You can even see Bill Maher cracking up because he knows exactly what Newsom's up to, playing smart, or at least trying to. But give credit where it's due. Maher isn't letting him off the hook that easily. And that's why I've got respect for Maher. He's one of the few willing to call out the left's hypocrisy, even from within their own camp. His interview with Newsom proves one thing. The woke mob doesn't care about anyone but themselves. They'll push whatever narrative works for them, dodge accountability, and then pat themselves on the back for their progress. But the moment they're asked to explain their logic, it all falls apart like a gluten-free cookie at a Berkeley coffee shop.
See, I'm telling you, you're good at this job. Okay.
You're good at this job. Yep, Newsom's a pro at dodging tough questions, which is exactly why he carefully avoids platforms that might actually make him answer them. Can't have that, right? Bill Maher's sarcastic jab here says it all about how he really views Newsom. He probably sees him as just another polished charlatan, all style, no substance. Or maybe he thinks Newsom's the kind of guy who can talk for hours without ever saying anything. The type of politician who spins so much nonsense with such confidence he might even start believing it himself. Either way, Maher clearly isn't buying Newsom's act, and neither should we. But hey, if you think you've seen the worst of Newsom, just wait for what he's about to say next.
I feel like the last couple of years you've purposely picked this fight with the red states. I mean, the DeSantis. Yeah, but I don't want to live in the Civil War country.
I agree with that.
You know what?
Well,
but you seem like you purposely want to set up this dichotomy between, oh, this is a blue state and that's a red state. Yeah. And I don't want to live in that country. I like Florida.
I'm with you. And by the way, I like Florida as well. I like all these states. I completely agree. I don't want to have a state of mind that's a constant fight or flight. We've gone through so much. We've been polarized and traumatized. It's been a tough 5-6 years across the globe, not just in this country. That said, I'm not going to sit back and watch. You made the point just a moment ago in your monologue. You got folks out there trying to bring us back to a pre-1960s world. America in reverse, rolling back voting rights, LGBTQ rights, women's rights, not just access to abortion, but contraception. I mean, it's a profound and consequential moment. And you could sit by and say, well, I really want to get along as these guys are rolling back the clock, or you can stand tall and assert yourself. And the reason I started to go into those red states, the reason I started to take on DeSantis, and the reason I started doing ads in these red states is I didn't feel my party was doing enough. It was CRT one year, and then it's ESG, and it's DEI, anything with 3 letters. These guys keep coming, and they're shape-shifting.
And here we go again. Another woke sermon straight from the gospel of progressive nonsense. And the best part? Newsom somehow managed to sum up everything wrong with woke culture in just 1 minute. Impressive. He even went as far as calling those who resist this ideology shapeshifters and accusing them of dragging America back to the 1960s. Because, of course, in the minds of the woke mob, questioning their agenda means you must be a time-traveling bigot. These are the same people who are dead set on placing biological men in women's sports, forcing them into the same bathrooms, and gaslighting anyone who dares to raise an eyebrow. And if that wasn't enough, they're aggressively pushing policies that prioritize race over merit in schools and workplaces, as if qualifications and skills are somehow outdated concepts now. And don't even get me started on their most radical crusade, pushing kids into gender transitions. They're telling children who can't even decide what to eat for lunch that they're mature enough to make irreversible medical decisions about their bodies. Parents who object, labeled as intolerant or worse, dangerous. This isn't about progress, folks. It's about control. And Newsom, just like the rest of the woke elite, is leading the charge. And I'm not surprised, honestly. I mean, this is the same guy who had the audacity to claim that speculators were swooping in while the wildfires tearing through California were only 6% contained. Joe Rogan couldn't even hide his shock when he heard that news.
The governor gave this creepy speech where he was talking about speculators coming in and talking about what to do with the land of all these homes that have been burnt down.
We're dealing with a myriad of issues. I was just talking to Josh Green, the governor down in Hawaii, who had some ideas around some land use concerns he has around speculators coming in, buying up properties.
While it's still only 6% contained. And he did this little dance, like, I've been talking with the governor of Hawaii about what to do. We've got some ideas, a speculator, we're going to have some meetings.
And the like, so we're already working with our legal teams to move those things forward, and we'll be presenting those in a matter of days, not just weeks.
It's so creepy.
So when I tell you that these woke lefties are selfish and only look out for themselves, you best believe it. They preach compassion, equity, and justice, but the second there's money to be made, all that virtue signaling goes out the window. While everyday Californians were desperately trying to save their homes from going up in flames, literally, what was Newsom focused on? Not relief efforts, not policy changes. Nope, he was too busy figuring out how to line his pockets. This is the same guy who locked down businesses while secretly dining at fancy restaurants. The same guy who lectures about climate change while jetting around in private planes. And yet, the woke mob still props him up as some kind of progressive savior. Why? Because they don't actually care about results. They care about maintaining their own power and control. It's the same story with every woke politician. They sell you a utopia while making sure they stay on top, untouched by the consequences of their own disastrous policies. Newsom and his ilk don't suffer from the chaos they create. You do. And as long as they keep cashing in, they'll never stop. At the end of the day, the woke left's hypocrisy knows no bounds. They preach equality while pushing division, claim to protect women while erasing them, and scream about democracy while silencing dissent. Newsom is just another polished fraud, dodging accountability while cashing in on chaos. And the worst part? The woke mob eats it up, because for them, it's never about truth, it's about control. And with that, we wrap up today's video. If you enjoyed the heat we brought, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more of the same fire. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you in the next one.